Awesome. So in short, WagerLab is a technology platform for friendly competitions. We began as a peer-to-peer sports betting app, but we now also provide software integrations which enable companies to incorporate competitive elements and gamification services. So survey after survey shows that most bets these days aren't being placed at sportsbooks. They're not being placed with bookies. People overwhelmingly prefer to bet socially with their friends and family. So in fact, about 20 million people placed a friendly wager on the Super Bowl alone. The problem is that these folks are completely ignored by the current market. When you place a bet at a sports book, you're betting against that book. So it's inherently non-social. Sports books also aren't beginner friendly, and their business models require special licensing, which limits them to only a handful of US states at the moment. And so WagerLab's goal is to transform the existing sports betting market into a much larger, more inclusive and social betting market. Our core app lets users place bets against each other. It's designed to be extremely easy to use, highly social. You'll find odds on all of the sports and topics that you'd expect to see at a sports book, as well as many others you won't find there. So everything from sports to politics to celebrity news and pretty much everything in between. WagerLab also doesn't require deposits or facilitate cash payouts, which means we can offer it in all 50 states without extensive licensing requirements. So instead, our app keeps a running tally on the bets that you've placed with each friend, and then it's up to you and that friend to decide if and how that tally gets paid out. And so we've also built a free-to-play betting system where the results of your bets affect your chances at winning various cash prizes. This has been extremely popular with our user base, as well as a betting pool system where you can customize the rules and compete as a group rather than one-on-one. And so I've seen some great user growth as a result of all of this, with tens of thousands of bets being placed through our app each month. And as our app grew, we noticed that our users' interests in betting extend well beyond the typical topics and bet types you'd find in a sports book. So sports betting is a male-dominated activity. But betting in general doesn't have to be, because anything is more fun when you've got a bit of personal skin in the game. And with sports betting rapidly growing in popularity, especially among younger audiences, a wide variety of brands are looking to use betting-related features as a way to drive user engagement. And so we've adapted our app's underlying tech into a platform-based architecture, which enables us to offer our technology to other brands on a white-labeled basis. So we can create new social wagering apps for them or license our APIs to them so that they can easily add betting related features to their existing apps in a highly customized way that integrates with their existing products or services. So for example, we can provide TV networks with the ability to host weekly betting pools where you try to predict what will happen on the next episode of a given show. Or we could provide a bowling alley chain with a way to enable their customers to match up and bet against one another on their bowling games. And so our technology can manage both the back end and the front end of these integrations, meaning it only requires 2 lines of code and a configuration file to be up and running for some companies. And so then moving forward, we're looking to grow our team, deliver on our first B2B contracts, and fully monetize our core app through sportsbook affiliate integrations. And so we're currently raising a pre-seed round of at least $500,000 to make that happen. And then long-term, we intend to transform that existing sports betting market into a much larger, much more inclusive, much more social, and much safer betting market by creating an ecosystem that's A, available to everyone, and B, lets them compete on any of the activities that they already enjoy. Thanks.
Awesome. Thanks for the pitch. So if people are squaring up with their friends and family on their own, does that mean your business model's got to be a little bit different in terms of how you make money on something like that? And also your incentives versus traditional gambling, your goal isn't necessarily to get people to lose as much money as possible because you're not the house in this case.
Precisely, exactly. And so a lot of the sort of innovation in the sports betting space lately has been centered around the existing model. It is a tried and true model where you're taking someone else's bet and you're taking a fee, juice is what it's called, or VIG, on each bet. It's very lucrative, but it requires this very extensive licensing, and there's tons of competition. we're not going to go and compete head on with the DraftKings or a FanDuel or an MGM. Instead, what we're looking to do is unlock this massive segment of the market that's just being ignored by all of these other companies. And in order to unlock that segment, we're looking to take a more novel approach, one that doesn't require extensive licensing, yet still solves these customers' problems.
And why are you building this?
Yeah, so kind of my background and expertise actually is in software development. And in my last job, I worked at Amazon, and what I was in charge of was their homepage. And they had this issue where all these teams wanted content on their homepage, but we didn't know who to give space to and who not to. And so what we decided was to take a distributed development system where any team could build content for the homepage. And then we would go and rank that content using a bunch of machine learning to decide who would see, for each customer, who would see what. And so taking that same sort of an approach into WagerLab, essentially we formatted our pool system, our odds system, and a few other systems in this way where it takes, for example, one file to configure any sort of data source as either odds data, results data, or both. And so we don't have to pay tens of thousands of dollars to hook up a new data source. We can just find some interesting data source about a TV show, maybe some commodity markets, plug it into our app, and bam, now we have another fun topic that our users can bet on. And so when you sort of take that distributed sort of model, you can turn betting really into something different, something that's more just competitive and fun and appeals to this wider audience. And so kind of having that technical expertise on my end to be able to create that sort of system has been really valuable, as well as being backed up by a team of folks who have fill a lot of the gaps for me. Stuart, for example, he's sort of my right-hand man. He's got experience in almost every area of digital marketing, including in the gambling niche, because when you're marketing in this market, again, you really want to avoid that direct competition with the real money sports books because their pockets are much deeper. And so you've got to figure out exactly how you target users and structure campaigns in a way that maintains a low cost per acquisition and avoids that direct competition.
And because they're rough and they'll break your back. It sounds a little bit like this plays into DeFi and prediction markets. Do you have anything on that, Gabriel? I know that's kind of your forte.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very deep down the rabbit hole, and obviously, if we go the DeFi route, we got to talk about Augur, which is basically doing this on a more decentralized with tokens. But I don't know if you can go there because from what I understand, you don't decide any odds. The players decide the odds. The player decides the rewards. It can even be non-monetary, like, oh, if you lose, you're going to wash the dishes, something like this, which will bring me to monetization in a second. But I don't know how you make that into a Web3 crypto something if it doesn't have a financial or money part. Maybe there is a way.
So yeah, so what we're doing right now is we've got what kind of our flagship core app, the WagerLab app, and that's you. We're monetizing that app through affiliate deals with sportsbooks and daily fantasy operators. Essentially, the user base we're attracting there is a bit more novice of bettors or more social focused bettors, and then from there they can learn how to bet. And as they kind of get more and more familiar with it, you can kind of graduate to daily fantasy or online sports books. And so for that specific app, that's the sort of business model we're going after. And there isn't that real money element to it. It also serves as a really great proof of concept for these B2B deals that we're working through. And so that's where I see the kind of future of this sort of platform with a Web3 based approach. We're actually even talking to some Web3 companies that are interested in licensing this technology for their own platforms. And so what we can do there is we can essentially hook up a wallet into the actual balances section of our app. And then in that licensing agreement, that's one of the features that client will purchase for us and one that we'll have available to them. So within our existing app itself, no, but we do plan on working, and we already are working with clients that want to use this for a Web3 application, and our technology is set up in a way that can absolutely do so. And in the future, I think we might also spin up more apps ourselves, one of which could be Web3 based, create our own token and provide betting opportunities that way. But in general, we're sort of taking the non-monetary approach because we want our core app, that's solving this one problem to be available to everyone, because we believe that something that anyone, no matter where you live, can download is important to us.
And this would bring you back all the way to being more of a traditional betting platform with money, whether it's for a customer or with your own token down the road. So it's got to be a fine line to navigate, because you're saying loud today, like, oh, we're not like the others. We don't have a monetary thing, and we don't need, regulation. We don't need to be regulated. As soon as you do this, either for a customer or for yourself, you're back with everyone else. So it's going to be interesting to see you navigate there. I wanted to ask you whether you see this more B2C or B2B in the future. You answered that you do think apparently that it's more the B2B that's going to bring in the money, which makes much more sense given that the B2C is not, affiliate is not necessarily a great, it depends. But anyway, B2B, and that's it for me. That's a good start. I want to leave Martin to ask a few questions.
This is perfect to white label for sports teams.
For sure.
Martin, do you have any questions? And then we have one from the audience as well.
It's just about customer acquisition. So how do you plan to do the customer acquisition if you're tackling people who are initially not that much into betting on the platforms right now?
Yeah, so there's a few strategies that it's been a very iterative process for us to figure out exactly what works and what doesn't. What we found is that it's not that these aren't bettors whatsoever. Our early adopters have certainly been into sports. They've been into betting, but they're just not the hardcore bettors that the sports books are going after. And so we've found certain links, for example, not daily fantasy, but fantasy football players are generally interested in our app. People that like certain TV shows, certain sports teams, we found certain correlations there. Another example we found even within our own app is that NFL bettors have a very strong correlation to their propensity to bet on the Kentucky Derby. So along with using the Kentucky Derby as a way to sort of actually market our app, we'll go and look at users that have been a little less active on the app since the end of NFL season when the Kentucky Derby comes up, and we'll start to kind of like push messaging towards those users. And so at the end of the day, I think when it comes to actual like content marketing, we've had a lot of success in finding these specific niches where there's a social element, there's a competitive element, and often there's still a sports element, yet it's not sort of directly concerning the actual betting. And then within our actual app itself, App Store optimization has been great for us. We've also just sort of like the kind of like main tenet we've had there, though, is to build a great product and make it easy for people to share that product through the app. And so by doing that, we're seeing a lot of our users actually just say, hey, I've enjoyed this. I've gotten a chance to try it out a little bit. I'm going to share this with a few of my friends. And so kind of maintaining a high bar there on the UX is very important to us as well.
All the right answers. I think fantasy sports is the unlock for you guys. That can be the facilitator for fantasy sports gambling without having to pay the platform fees to put money in. So it's a super cool unlock. Vikram Mishra in the audience has a question in terms of, you mentioned a little bit about regulation, but what about fraud prevention? Do you do anything in terms of preventing fraud between players or even potential money laundering?
Yeah, so through our app, you cannot make a deposit through our app and then place a bet and then obtain money based on the outcome of that bet. That's the primary means that, our app is completely free to play. It's designed to be when you're betting with friends, you're tracking bets with friends. We have a actual free to play system where you earn our in-app currency. But again, the result of your bet doesn't directly translate into money that you can directly cash out. And so with that, they're actually fraud doesn't really play a role there. Now, as we expand and depending on the types of some of these contracts that we're getting into, yes, that becomes a much bigger deal. And that kind of like really plays a role on a contract by contract basis. Where do we need to go and get licensed? What sort of steps do we, what sort of payment processors are we going to use? But really that kind of gets a bit more into the future and a bit more on the specifics of those contracts. The initial contracts that we're currently in negotiations around, there's only one where the actual where there could be sort of a real money aspect to those wagers. And so that, again, there's an added layer of complexity, but it's a very kind of like well-trodden path that a lot of companies have gone through before. And so one that we can absolutely handle.
Raise money, hire lawyers, build bigger.